Hello again, and welcome to Nofaratu's World of RESKINZ. And today I'm going to be talking about layers and how you can use those layers in regards to your reskin. And we'll be also talking about the free select tool used in your reskins. So today we're going to be talking about your layers and how your layers affect your reskin. So basically anything or any type of image or logo that you place, it will become a layer. So for instance, these are my layers that I have placed on the SC44 charger. So from numbers to logos and just anything that you would want to use to decorate your locomotive. And it's all represented in the images and what you use during your reskinning process. So this is your main artwork. So these are all layers at the from bottom all the way to the top, and they can be organized. So you know, let's say this image, it just says drop buffer, but these images, they're logos that you would basically place, or if you have in your library. So this is one logo, and this is another part of a logo. They're all separate pieces. They're not all in one. So let's say I clicked on this logo and I wanted to hide the logo. I didn't want this to show on my engine, so how would I do that? Well, the good thing about GIMP is that you don't have to have it shown. What you want to do is you want to go to this layer since you have it clicked, and they have them by numbers too. What you want to do is you want to select this little eye icon here, and this icon that's selected, and it shows by representing the yellow box here. What you want to do is you want to click this icon, simple I, and it vanishes. Even though the yellow box is still here, you still won't see the name Amtrak, which is up here, but on this side of the reskin, it'll disappear. So if you have these little eyes ticked on or ticked off, you won't see your image or the design for the locomotive. So let's say the next one, for instance, that would be Amtrak 50th logo. If I didn't want this on my engine, you have two options. You can either delete this or you can just untick it, and it won't show. But it's a pretty simple, easy task of doing. So, and this goes for basically any image that you upload or any image you import into GIMP, or you can just click on your images and just drag and drop in here. So it goes for everything. And then there's also another image that I want to talk about. Let's see. This also goes for the numbers as well. 301, 301, the back part of the engine, the sides. So there's like 4 sets here. Now if I untick this, it disappeared. I untick it again, another one disappeared. I do the rest of them, this one disappears, and I do this. Sometimes the engines in game have already numbers that are already displayed, like number boards, and they might have auto numbers or number belts, but it's how they are and how they're made. But a lot of these are like, you can actually, so for these numbers, I don't necessarily, I can have these, but I can also drag and drop. Let's take these on again. I can always drag and drop a number and it'll just make another copy from the original that was already posted, but let's undo that. And you can also add text if you don't want to copy and paste. If you want to make a fresh number, this would be what you would want to do. There's a tool here, and it's a text tool right here. And you click on that, and what you would normally do is you would hold left click and then drag to open a box, and this will be where your text will be displayed. So you could basically just type anything in, and you can select the color of the text, and you highlight your text, and then you just select what color you want it to be, whether you want a red or a darkish color. But if this isn't highlighted, the color will not change. And if you don't feel like adding text, you can just leave it as an empty box, and it'll show right here because it's a new layer. Basically, you're adding. So the more things you add in regards to layers, you're adding a new layer. So this is a layer that we tried to add for text, but we don't want it, so we can just right click and just delete the layer, and it won't appear. And also there's a technique behind this. So this number, let's see, I'm gonna switch downward. So this number is listed as 301 and it's a layer. Now let's say I wanted to drag this layer downward so I wouldn't have to see it. If I were to drag this any further down past the original artwork, which is the whole image, your text will not be shown because it's below the marker of your artwork. So whenever you make a text or an image or a logo which is going around your whole entire reskin, always keep, you know, your text above. Even if it's at the top, it will still be shown, and it'll be visible. So you have, any type of reskin you can think of, and there's all kinds, to be precise. Now there's another tool that I wanted to explain, and um, oh yeah, so this also too just shows like what all the work you have done, and it's like a process. So this is all the work I've tried to do while making this reskin, and we went from the original. So you click on one and it takes you all the way back to what you have created, and this is the long distance charger ALC 42. This was the original skin, and this is basically like your history. It shows what you have completed, and you can always go back. So if you don't like what you have created, you can just look through these, you can slide through them, and you can select one and say, hey, maybe I don't like this logo, or maybe I don't like this color, and you can always go back and get rid of it. But if you do like it, you can always go forward, which is going downwards. But going upwards, you'll just have the base image. It kind of keeps a record of what you had and what was already created. So it was probably one of the first reskins I've made, but um, it was pretty nice. So so there's two things that I want to mention here is that you have your layers at the bottom here, and then you have a channels. So these two are important, and some images have alpha channels. Most of them wouldn't really technically, and it's based off on what engine or what locale you're using. So every locomotive is different and things, but if you happen to reskin a serious, highly detailed reskin, you're gonna have an alpha channel. You're gonna have all of these as well, and they come in different colors. So all of these must be checked. Without these, you just wouldn't see your reskin. And these eyes are just to show and have your artwork visible, and without them, they won't be visible. Now, with every eye comes a lock. There's a chain. So, and the reason why I say this is because remember the rotate tool here. So, if I clicked on my artwork down here, which is the artsc44.jpg, which is the whole image here, let's say I wanted to rotate this whole image. So I clicked on the rotate tool, I clicked on my artwork, but remember, as we said before, we have to have our layers selected. We have to select the layer, which is the art SC44, which is the whole image, and not the small text. Have your artwork selected, and then click on your artwork, and or as you know, the rotate appears, and we're going to rotate our image. Sometimes it might not work the first time, and as we rotated, it might just be a floating. So what just happened is that I selected a text, but the whole artwork didn't change because it wasn't selected. So we're gonna undo that, and let's click on this here. So you basically, this is a chain basically, and it's used to lock the image and everything that's on the image, but these are all separate, so these are not chained up. And as they're not chained, they will not stay with the image. They won't stay with the image as we rotate. Now, since we have the chain that's locked on the default artwork, we have our rotate tool here selected. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to rotate the whole entire artwork. Now, keep in mind that these images, these small text, are all called layers, and they're all not chained up, because for each layer there's a chain. As you select all the chains, all of these text will lock onto the default artwork, and it will move with the artwork. So let's unchain these, and let's just rotate the default artwork. So look at the screen as I click, and all my defaults, text and everything disappeared because it's not locked with, these are not locked with the original artwork. Now I'm going to rotate this to the left. As I'm rotating, you can see some text behind it, behind the image, but I'm only rotating the default artwork. Now, as I click the rotate button, this is what happens. You have all your text and everything in the wrong spot. And for that is because you didn't have all your text and images locked with the artwork. So let's undo that. And this time we're going to select these chains, which tells, you know, the artwork that it will be locked with the text. So we're going to apply these chains at the side, these layers. And as we're applying all these layers, I know it's a lot of layers, but sometimes you need a lot of layers for your decent artwork. Now, all of them, so what you're doing is it's showing here as history that, you know, I've just linked and unlinked them. So what you're doing is when you link these texts to your default artwork, you're linking them, which means they're going to stay with your artwork and they're not going to, you know, they're not going to just stay in one spot. They're going to move with your artwork. So let's give it a try. So our rotating tool is checked. We have our defaults artwork checked. And now we can click on our artwork. Even though it disappeared, it will still be with your default artwork. Now we're going to rotate to the left again, and we're going to click rotate. Voila! Now as you can see, I flipped the script because every text and image was locked and it was linked to the default artwork. And it's a pretty simple way of understanding that if you want to turn your artwork around because you want to reskin the opposite side of the engine that you're reskinning, you don't want to just, you know, do it like this and having to do it backwards. You can flip your artwork around and make it simple and easy for you, because we all know that like doing this backwards and upside down just makes things a whole lot weird. So always make sure that if you had put layers on your reskin, always have these linked together. Yep, this little chain for each layer that you apply. And if you want to, you know, turn your artwork around to customize an opposite side, you should always have this linked and all the other layers linked. And then you can rotate and they will stay the same. If you're done with one side and you want to do the other side, have this checked. Always. Now, there is a tool called the free select tool. Now I'm going to get into that. Now there's a little option here that you can use for having your reskins and images visible and transparent, and which is this tool right here, and you can adjust it to how you want your text to look. If you want it dark and transparent, you can actually decrease this, and as there's no percentage for your text, it becomes black, it becomes invisible. So as we begin to get some gradient, our text becomes visible, but it's just not so clear and lighter as your other colors would be for images. And as we continue to add and add and add here at the bottom here, our text gets a lot lighter and lighter. Another great tool for GIMP, which I think is pretty nice to have, and as such. Now the free select tool that I wanted to talk to you about is this little tool right here. It's like probably probably one of the best tools I've used. It's almost like, creating polygonal and like hand drawn segments of lines. It's a pretty useful tool, and I'm sure GIMP has this today in most softwares, so it's pretty nice to have. So what I want to show you guys is that this tool helps most people a lot with making reskins, and it's certainly helped me make most of my reskins and making sure things are aligned. So let me show you what I can do with this little tool here. So you have your artwork selected. Remember, you should always have your artwork selected. If you're using a tool at the top here, you should always click on your artwork. If you're clicking on this and you want to make a line, or if you want to make a design, any type of layer that you've clicked on, you could only use that specific tool that you want to use for this area. Because if it's not for, so like these yellow lines, even depending on what color you're using, let's get closer here. So if I want to make a line, you know, even still, I could make it out on the main artwork. Click that, get rid of it. So, but just a thought. I'm going to be using my default artwork, and we're going to be using our tool, and this is a free select tool, and it's used to create hand-drawn lines or just polygonal segments. So let's say I want to, make a line or like make a box. Let's say how this works. So if I wanted to make a quick box, all I gotta do is left click once, don't hold, just click once, click again, and click one more time. Now you have to, every time when you're clicking, you don't want to hold the mouse, you don't want to hold the left mouse when you clicked, because this is what can happen if you clicked and you're holding. If you click and you're holding, you're just like not making it straight. You're making all these lines, but it's not always that good. If you want to make something straight or lined out, and that's only if you're making like a curve, it's like an optional thing, but it's comes with the tool. But anyway, let's get that out of here. So what I was saying is that if you want to make a box, you can just start off by making a square, and you can making a square with only one click for each segment. And once you've connected the dots, it'll start to flash and start to, tell you that this is ready to go. And you can tell if it's like clear, and you can tell when it's actually aligned. And you have certain parts to tell you. So once you have your box, what you want to do is you want to go to your bucket fill tool, and you want to select any type of color you want to select. So let's see, I'm going to select the red color, for instance. We're going to go down here, and notice that on this little image here, it's saying that I can't color the main artwork because this box has been selected only for me to color. Whenever you're using the free select tool, the free select tool is only currently used to select a specific area that you want to color in, or if you want to design. And once you've connected the dots, it'll only allow you to color this area. It won't allow me to color anywhere else on my artwork. So it's restricting me from doing that because this is selected and not my main artwork. Even though I have, my artwork selected in my layers, when you're using this tool and you've made what you wanted to make in regards to a box or just lining up with textures and stuff, it's pretty easy, pretty simple, isn't it? It's not like as difficult. But once you've colored in your box and your texture, you can use the bucket fill tool to fill your colors up, and it will let you know because this is your history. It just tells you what you filled. And if you don't like this, you can always go back. You don't like the color, you can change it, or you can just go back to where you've started. And sometimes what I do is I use this tool, which is called the ink tool. It's like a paint tool that you can, it's the same thing as a bucket tool, but you're just using to paint objects. So what I use this tool to kind of straighten out the colors a bit. Oops. Apologies again. I had the erase tool there. And you have multiple options down here as well for what type of mode you want to use. So like what I just did is I used an erase tool and it erases the color into a transparency. So that's another tool that we're going to get into, but for now I have to change this to normal. So I change it to normal and I'm just kind of going around the edges here, just filling in the blank colors because sometimes you might not get all the textures in on the corners. It might just look like a simple color, but this is what it really is. And once you're done coloring, you can just hit the rectangle select tool and press on your artwork, click on your artwork, and it's your select none. So this is what it is, and you just created a red box. Now we're going to go back and we're going to start all over again. So this would be your free select tool. If you ever select, let's give you another example for instance. So let's see. If I'm going to go on this line and you also have this little arrow that's like following your every movement, this kind of determines if you're aligned, and there's also an arrow up here that you can see has numbers. So this arrow determines if your free segment is aligned or not. And if it is, that's good. So let's just say I wanted to create this rectangular shape and I want to line it up. So once everything is selected, all we do now is let me go ahead and use the ink tool first. So you can use the ink tool or you can use the bucket fill tool. And you have some options down here. You have to adjust the size of the ink tool. So it's at 97%. So that would be like the whole block would just fill up. If I want to shrink this number down like 24%, then you'll have a smaller, and you can also adjust your shape too. What kind of so this is like, I know it's a circle, but when you're coloring it changes. So if I selected this shape, I know that's like so small to see, but like this is how small your colors would be. And if I wanted to select a square, it makes a square. If I wanted to select a circle shape, it makes a circle. So you have some options here, and then you also have your size and the angle, and this shows how much of a color and how much like visibility you have for this. So we're at 24, actually 22. So this is a lot darker than what these colors are. Now if I put this at 1%, you would barely see that color, and it would barely be visible to the naked eye. So we're going to go back, and we're going to go to the bucket fill tool. If you just want to fill that bucket of color and make it simple and easy, you can do that. And with the bucket fill tool, you just, the area that's selected, you select and click, and you have your colors in there. Let's say you have these little lines that mismatch, and they're not really, you don't like these lines that are sitting here. You can use this, you can use the ink tool, and you can adjust what size you want to fill that area. So basically you can, there's many options to this. You can do a lot with these tools, with the free select tool, your bucket fill tool, and your ink tool, and it's very useful. It aligns your colors and your reskins. Sometimes most of your reskins will already have lines and designs that were already made. So, and these designs are made to separate the colors. So let's unselect this and let's go back. So if you continue to see this little line that's flickering and lines, and you can't seem to color the main artwork because you see this line here and it doesn't want to go away, all you want to do is that you have to go to the rectangle select tool at the top, the very first tool, and just click on your artwork and it will disappear. And you can go on to coloring your reskin and other things as such. Now you notice how this red color is not showing and coloring the Amtrak image and text. The reason why, let me feel my opacity up here. You notice how it's like passing these colors and it's not actually coloring the blue and Amtrak 50th logo. The reason why is because you have these layers here that are obstructing and blocking. So you restricted this. You don't want to color this because it's a separate layer. So it's only when you select your layer here is when you can actually color through it and color around and in the designated area. So like this, I would say, is still being blocked because it's a separate layer. So just like this at the top here, you want to scroll down and select the layer that matches. Let's see. So once we selected our layer here, once you can see the yellow lines that is telling you that this is the area that you want to select and paint. Fill our paintbrush. Then we can color it. But see the opacity, it's to the naked eye. You can it's transparent. You can still see it, because of this tool right here. You have it at 74%. So if I want to fill that up all the way, then the whole color would be gone. And you would not see the Amtrak logo ever again. You fill that area up. Now, if you don't want this and you're afraid that you messed up, or you're beating yourself up because you don't know how to reverse all this, you have this whole bar here that shows you your history, and you also have it here as well, which you can go back to. So let's go back. It's basically just telling you your history and what you've created and what you can go back to. So I recommend these tools, and I think that these tools are pretty good to use. So if I wanted, different layers overlap with, like other layers, and they overlay certain ones. So if you want like a layer that's matching or colored, you could do the same thing. So like I put flags down for this reskin, and those flags that I placed down, as you can see right here, they're layers. So I'm just selecting to see which layer that might be. And so you can see it's selected because I have a yellow box that's showing that I can select this area and I can color it. Because I selected the layer. If I didn't select the layer, I am only coloring the default, and I'm not actually coloring the selected layer because it wasn't selected in my layers tab. Let's undo that. So I think it's a very special tool, and always keep in mind that whenever you want to make any type of hand-drawn images and polygon segments, this is your tool right here. So let's say besides making a box, I want to make several segments. So let's try to make a circle. I know mine's is probably not going to be the best, but let's give it a try. So I'm only left clicking once for each time. You can add as many segments as you can. Now, you notice that I still have these circles that are appearing after I connected the dots, right? These you can use to modify your design. So you can actually modify this. You can change how you want the circle to look. So like I've created this circle. I wanted it to be a perfect circle. I want the design to look really nice, so I'm modifying and I'm selecting these small segments to make my circle look really nice. Now, once I am satisfied with my design, I just go to my bucket fill, or you can go to your ink tool and you can select any color you like, and you can just go over it a few times, and once you're done with your circle, just press the rectangle select tool and just give a quick press on your artwork and it's gone. The free select tool is gone and your color is there. So let's do another one, and let's get one a little bit bigger this time. Oh, kind of missed a spot there. I made a small one. Sometimes when you got two dots that are too close to each other, you can move them. You can modify them. You can move them around. It's almost like creating polygon segments, which technically it is. So once you're satisfied with your color or design. You can select your color early, or you don't have to, because this segment will still be here. It won't vanish, it won't disappear. So let's select it, or I'm going to use my ink tool here, and let's choose a greener color. Now it's flickering, so, and I have it selected, so I'm going to color it. Now what just happened is that I filled up the whole entire thing, the segment, because let's go back. What I didn't do is that I didn't create another segment blocking this blue color here. So I know it's like gonna be tough for most people out here to do this because they would not know how to do two segments, but let's see. Sometimes you can. Let's go back to our main select tool. So with this select tool, you can hand draw anything you feel that is necessary that you would want on your locomotive. If it goes for handlebars or just a door or just anything that you want to design, free select tool would be your tool. And or sometimes you can use another tool that would be great. You can use just a hand already preset made tool that is already, like, you can just place down this tool and you can use it to your advantage. So I think that it's a pretty good way to make realistic reskins because you have fresh paint and you've used a real free select tool to make your skins. Sometimes people would just use images and just paste them on your logos, but it's all about who is creating the reskin and what they want. So